invite Venerable?
Yes. We'll have our dialogue now. It will be about dealing with life disruption and crisis.
So at this point, if we may invite all our panelists and Venerable as well for the panel discussion. So if we could then invite Venerable as well as our panelists.
Our distinguished panelists are Dr. Lim Hwee Yong, Medical Oncologist, Medical Director of Novena Cancer Center, Singapore. We also have Dr. Kwong, Djee, the Internationalisation Lead of the School of Medicine, Griffith University.
So Dr. Lim and Dr. Chan, please. And Venerable as well.
We also have our moderator. Our moderator is Associate Professor Teng Wei-jen. Prof. Teng, please.
So Prof. Teng will be proceeding to moderate the session. Thank you, Prof. Teng.
Thank you very much.
Right. Okay. Oh, yeah. Wow.
We have it.
Technique. You can hear me automatically. So, good morning, distinguished Sangha members. Okay. I thought there was Sangha members. And distinguished speakers and everybody, good morning. My name is Wei-jen Teng. I'm teaching Buddhism at Dharma Institute of Liberal Arts, where the president is sitting here with us. And I'm also a part of ICB academic members. I'm sure you all, like me, have enjoyed Venerable Wei-min's very interesting, informed, and very practical talk on how to take charge of our destiny, which of course reminds us the cardinal teaching of the Buddha, that one is one's own island in the oceanic world of samsara, and one is one's own source for our own salvation and salvation of others from Bodhisattva point of view. Coming from a religious study background, I have to admit that I don't understand all the details of the talk, especially the brain science part, the science part. But now we know, and I know scientifically, that the Buddha is right about that we can still take charge of our own destiny. Now, in this following session, I feel excited already. We are very honored to have our another two very distinguished speakers, Dr. Lim and Dr. Chan, Zheng join with Venerable Wei-min to kind of take the previous talk further into a more life situation where one might face the critical life disruption of illness or end-of-life situation. So let me briefly introduce Dr. Lim and Dr. Chan first. Dr. Lim, the director of Novena Cancer Center, he's a very distinguished oncology specialist. So we can first maybe ask Dr. Lim, talk about from your professional experience, how you could help your patient in facing their critical moment of life disruption. And then we will invite Dr. Zheng Guangzhi, who is a senior lecturer of medical education and communication skill at Griffith University, Australia. Dr. Chen might also, or maybe and Dr. Lim too, comment on Venerable Wei-min's talk, or talk about a little bit about your professional expertise, and maybe introduce the idea of the study of life and death, the 生死学, right? Or
in how many minutes?
We have
1 hour.
We have an hour, so maybe 10 minutes or so, and introduce actually this very medically sorry, not medically. I just said the study of life and death, this concept of 生死学, or medically hospice care. Anyway, so the purpose of this discussion panel is really to give you all an opportunity to interact with our learned speakers, and I'm also excited to learn about what their responses will be. But in order to keep this Q&A section effectively, we urge that you keep your question short and related to their expertise, not questions like stock market prediction. Well, maybe they can answer, I don't know, but yeah. Keep your questions more related to their specialties. And if you like, before your question, you can maybe tell us your profession, not the entire autobiography. Okay. So shall we have Dr. Lim to share with us first?
Thank you very Professor Teng for a very kind introduction. I'm not too sure about learned, but I'm a coolie that works on the ground with people who faces huge disruption in life. So it's life and death. So I will share a little bit of my perspective, of my experience, and then if that helps, you, everyone here, I think I'll achieve my aim. All right. So I'm a medical oncologist, so I see patients with cancer, and really a lot of them, because it has become really one of the most commonly diagnosed disease in the developed world. Right. So when most of my patients, when they are faced with this diagnosis, because cancer, the CE word, always strike fear in the hearts of patients. Yeah. So it becomes a very big life-changing event, not just for the patient, but for the whole entire family. So everyone is really affected. And that really brings us very close, to how we perceive life in a sense. So I was just preparing, taking down some notes about this talk today, yesterday evening. And then, this verse from the Avatamsaka Sutra came to mind, in the sense that, our mind is like a painter. All right, we use colors to paint, and from that arise our perceptions, aggregates, and that's how we form our world. So our world is really dependent on our mind. Our mind perceives the world. It is a perception of our purpose, of our life here. And I was very honored to have learned from Venerable Hui-min just a few days ago when we were having this discussion with Charles from Charles and Keith. And he said that, because we were talking about shoes, right? So he said that there are many obstacles. The routes may not be even. Lots of pebbles, gravel, potholes. You cannot ask for it to be clean, for us always. However, we can put on shoes. Right? So we can put on shoes for ourselves. Right? In that sense, if we arise a different perception, if we arise a different way of approaching what we have in life, that will be like putting shoes on our mind. So wisdom is like shoes on our mind, right? So with that, I will go in, to maybe discuss when patients are faced with this life-changing experience, what is the challenges they face, and what is the reaction they might arise. So frequently when we say, okay, we have cancer, a lot of people will think that, first of all, that I'm going to die, right? Because very few people survive cancer. And that's, we have witnessed it many times in life. Most people who are diagnosed with cancer tend to be older, and they have seen other people die from cancer. Right? So their first reaction is that I'm going to die. All right. However, so to change that perception, first thing first, we have to establish whether you are really going to die. All right? Because if you see a pebble and you think it's a snake, or if you see a rope and you think it's a snake, then you are just really going towards depression and death for no good reason. Right? So we must understand that in this day and age, there are things that we can do for cancer, if we diagnose it in very early stage, there's a chance of cure. All right. So the first thing first is that, is this true that I am going to die? All right. For that matter, if the medical ability in our current age, we cannot cure this disease, then yes, you might die from this disease, but not necessarily so, right? All right. So then we will talk about what we can do about it. So from my perspective is that when I came, when I came back and I see a lot of patients with cancer, the first thought that comes to their mind is that, oh doc, so you can't cure me. I'm waiting to die. I'm 等死. What am I going to do with my life? Now I have to, I can only, wait, for death. So at the time, we are again relatively young, and my response, coming from my perspective, is that actually I'm also waiting to die. Then he was like, oh doc, do you have cancer? Obviously not, right? All right. So our perspective is that, especially from a Buddhist perspective, is that we understand the principle, of birth, of aging, of illness, of death. All right. Once we are born, we are waiting to die. All right. So the point is that waiting to die is not the definition of your life. 一在等死, I'm also 等死. I'm also waiting to die. All right. It's what you do with your life. So once I'm born, I can't say, oh, I'm waiting to die, so I think about death a whole entire day till I'm 80 years old, 100 years old, and then I die, right? I do something with my life. I go to school, I learn how to, do mathematics, I learn medicine, I become a doctor, I build a family, I create a career, I go on, and it's what I do with my life. So whatever you have at the time, be it 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, is what you do with your life that is actually important. It's the quality of that period of time that's actually important, rather than the notion of waiting to die. All right. So when we express that kind of perspective to that patient, it's like changing their way of looking at it. Then they start thinking, oh, okay, there's life other than cancer. All right. Cancer doesn't drive my life at this point of time. All right. So that is actually a very important thing for a lot of my patients. Because once you think about it, then they say, and I add on and I say that, okay, now you have cancer. Now this is what I can do, this is what I cannot do. This is our goals, this is what we're going to achieve. However, I will tell you that most of the cancer patients, even if it is not curable, they have reasonable quality of life. They can go on for a very long period of time. And I always tell them that do not allow it to drive your life. You can continue to work if you are able to work. You can continue to travel, you can go on holidays, you can plan your life, around what you want to do. I will work along with it. I will try to achieve that aim. All right. If I need certain things, I will tell you what exactly I'm going to do. All right. So this is the the way that we try to change perspective in that sense. All right. The second thing that I commonly get asked, especially when faced with cancer patient, is cancer patient will ask you, hey doc, I have cancer, I'm very afraid. I think cancer is such a horrible disease. I see many of my friends die painfully. Can you give me mercy killing? Right. Mercy killing, euthanasia. Right. In fact, I vividly remember somebody I saw, I think in 2010, who told me that, doc, can we do mercy killing in Singapore? If not, I'll go Holland. In Holland, it was reported in the news, I can die and they can kill me. All right. My response, from my perspective, okay, I'm not saying, representing the medical community. I would say that mercy I can do, but not killing. From my medical perspective, all right? Mercy and killing are two different things, right? Because what the patient is asking for is that I do not want to have pain. I do not want to have suffering, all right? And that is my prerogative. That is my, wish, my profession or vocation, to try to take away that suffering. So if I can take away the suffering, would you still want to die? That's two different things, right? We're talking about, right? So in this sense, we can tell them, and they can their perspective change. Because I can tell you that most people, or people that I know, nobody thinks that they are going to live to 100,000 years old. Everyone knows that they are going to die sometime in point. All right? What they are afraid of is that, is it going to be painful? Am I going to suffer? Am I going to just lie in bed, have all this pain for a very long period of time, and then I will die? All right. So death itself is not what they are worried about. It's what the process of dying. All right. So in that sense, And of course, the way that we kind of look at it, Prof. Teng was just saying that it's a perception. We can change afflictions, we can change suffering to Buddhi in a single thought. So if you tell them and say that, hey, okay, this is how you should view it, this is how you should actually kind of like carry on with your life, I can control this within my capability, the patient have a different way of looking at it. It's like putting a shoe on the mind, especially when you're going to traverse very difficult path, very difficult period of time. All right. Cancer is like an obstacle on the path of life. All right. And in Venerable's Hui-min's words, we can put a shoe on it and try to make it less painful. All right. So that's I think what I have to say as the beginning, and I'll pass it back to Prof. Teng.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lim. So I hear from your short talk that we should first choose a right pair of shoes. No, just kidding. Actually, I hear from your sharing, I don't know about you, the cardinal teaching of the Buddha, the Four Noble Paths. The Four Noble Truths. So identify the true problem, and then set on the right path.
Yes.
Okay, let's move to Dr. Chen and tell us a little bit about your...
a little bit about everything.
Yeah, sure.
So this totally matches with the theme of today's symposium of disruptiveness, that we try to address so many topics in a very short time. And that is the reality of the struggle of the modern life. So Venerable Professor Hui-min has been really, really compassionate that he shared his note-taking process with you, because we do live in an era where information is exploding. How do you keep on top of all this and not go crazy? How do I stay centered when I'm asked to talk about death and dying, life and death studies? What do you do with terminal illness in such a short time frame? So the first thing that I invite you to do is actually some stretching. Yes. Why? Because my interest is more of what are the questions that you want to ask instead of what am I saying. Sitting up here, I have no idea where you're from. I have no idea what troubles you the most. In order for you to ask good question, you first need to be present. And in order for you to be present, there's only one key, that is through your body and not your thoughts. We've done a lot of things in thoughts today. Thoughts can bring you to the past and the future, but your body brings you to the present. That's why I do not know why Reverend Hui-min said like that. That's how I teach in the university.
Wow.
Whenever I get a table, the next thing I'm sitting on it and I talk to my students like that. So I invite every one of you, not kicking the person in front of you, just stretch your legs out, one leg at a time, upright, and lean forward a bit. Ow, do you feel that? Can you feel that? This leg out, straight, yes.
Wait.
Heel
Sit.
on the floor, push forward. Can you sense the stretch? Breathe into it. He's your friend. He's your friend that's going to bring you to this present moment. Okay, another deep breath. Okay, now, the other one. Now, lean forward and breathe into that stretch. Our body is very generous. We just need to be a bit nice to it, and it will treat us very nicely. But unfortunately, modern days, people's mind is just driving the body crazy. Okay, another deep breath. Thank you very much. I hope you're more present now. And I look forward to your questions. So, what is life and death studies? I am really, really afraid of dying. I'm so afraid that I did a master's degree in it. That's how afraid I am. I'm still afraid of death and dying. So, to make the long story short, I grew up in a household where death and dying is quite common. well, you might, when you hear the reason, you might then laugh again, because my father's father has got 2 wives, my mother's father has got 4 wives. So in their generation, there is altogether 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people lining up to die. So we got a lot of practice as a kid.
Okay.
There's always someone dying or someone growing old. And it terrifies me. One of the reasons that I went into short-term monastic retreat when I was 8 years old, that was 1978, is because I was afraid of death and dying. So see, I'm so afraid that I'll shave my head, I'll do a master's degree, I'll do anything. So I think I was really fortunate that the Chinese Buddhist religion has offered me a lot of support in there. When I was thinking about death and dying just now, sitting down there, what can I tell you? What can I tell you? The only thing I can tell you is there is so many tools and ways to find inner peace, but it is your job, it's your responsibility to find it. Life and death studies do not offer an answer to everyone. It offers you the opportunity to seek your own answer. Because we're all different. We have different upbringing. We have different cultural, religious experience. We've learned about different things as we grow up. So your view in life and death is uniquely yours. The important thing is you need to start doing it. You need to start thinking about it. You need to start making sense of what it is for you. So when I was thinking about that, sitting down there, I was thinking about the Institute of Chinese Buddhism. What can I offer you? I can offer you something that I learned when I was a university student. I went to Lianyingshi in Taiwan for a 4-qi with Can Yun Fashi Can Gong. That was 1995. And from there, I learned this. Namo Amitofo. Namo Amitofo. Namo Amitofo. Namo So, yes, you can cut. Can Gong taught us a lot of things when we were in the 7 days Buddhist chanting retreat. All you can do is chant Namo Amitabha, nothing else. You can't even talk. You can't. You have to observe the non-talking precept. The thing that really moved me is to see a great practitioner, how he embodies the teaching of Buddhism in his daily movement. It's so beautiful to watch. It's just an amazing experience. So what I can urge you is, we're in such a difficult era, with so much challenges, you need to seize the opportunity. You need to seize the opportunity to follow those great teachers, whoever resonates with you. You have to make the move. You have to commit yourself. There is no discount. There is no easy way out. Imagine, from the talk that Venerable Hui-min said just now, how our habits were being formed. We have spent decades and decades of time forming our habits. Do you think it's so easy to just flip it around? No way. No way. We've spent all our lifetimes cultivating how to be greedy, how to be angry, how to be grumpy. You think you can just flip it around like that? You will need a lot of mindfulness practice to be able to capture that before it kidnaps you. And in order to do that, there's nothing else to do but to start from the here and now, to be present with how you're feeling, what is happening, and through that, understand where it's coming from. I teach my medical students empathy. I teach them compassion. But my key thing to my student is, unless you're compassionate to yourself, unless you're comfortable being vulnerable, unless you know your own journey and your own trauma, it's quite hard to have compassion. Because for me, compassion starts from seeing our own journey, our own struggle, our own trauma, and hence we realize that why is it so difficult for the other person? We all have demons that we struggle with. The kinder we are to our own demons, the kinder we are to other people. And on that note, we can work together and make this world a better place. Thank you very much.
Wow, what a comment. And thank you. Although you didn't actually mention the word meditation in your comment, but you actually already take us to taste the spirit of Buddhist meditation. I find this is great. And maybe we will in the next few sections, and tomorrow we probably will touch the topic of Buddhist meditation, maybe tomorrow. And also I found that this idea of fear that you both talk about is interesting. Normally when you see like a kid fear of cockroach, so they run away from it. But you instead try to face it, try to understand it.
I was too afraid to run.
Actually, this reminds me of a flip side of this emotion called fear. I would put it like this. Can we call it a sense of crisis, like what Buddhists, what is talked about in Buddhism? Okay. So Venerable Wei-min, you have you want to add something to their comments or?
Because the time is so precious, and yes, and we have to specialize on this topic. Sure. I think it's better way to open to the floor.
Yeah,
that would be more good Q&A. Okay.
I can sense the urge there already trying to ask a question. So yeah, the floor is yours. How do we do this? Is there somebody who will pass along? Okay, the mic. So let me see your hand and challenge us. No, challenge you.
I always say, if you have a question that if you don't ask, you say ngan bai. That means you can't die in peace. Ask it now.
Yes, I totally agree with that.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
If I don't ask, I will die. Regret. Yeah, because I think all of us are human beings. So I'm very curious, not just because of the topic for today, because it's talking about disruption. Disruption can be for illness, can be for any crisis that you mentioned. I personally very curious, how do you actually handle disruption in your life? I'm very curious, how do you handle? Just pick one that you think is very serious and is very disruptive, and share how do you handle mentally, and also how do you personally overcome that particular disruption.
I'll try to keep this one in 3 minutes. Okay. I went to the US Embassy 2 days ago because I have a conference that I have to go to Washington in October for the interview for my US visa. And they said they need my passport so that they can put the visa on it. I happily gave them the passport. It was in Sydney. I live in Brisbane. I flew back to Brisbane, didn't think about it, until that afternoon realized that I'm actually going to go on to plane in Singapore the next day.
Yeah.
How am I going to go to Singapore without my passport? So that is huge, major, ginormous disruption. And I'm really lucky that I have all these years of practice to fall back on, because I realized that there is no point panicking. You need to resolve the situation. You need to stay with the center. And that is why I say it's your decision. Where is your center? How familiar are you with your center? How deep is your habit of being centered? Okay, so I'm here now. Obviously, I did something. Yeah. I went online, immediately booked the ticket to fly back from Brisbane to Sydney. I was calling multiple phone calls, Malaysia Embassy, US Embassy, while I was on the taxi from Sydney Airport to the US Embassy. I rocked up. They said, yep, you can wait. We'll see what we do with you. And then 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I got my passport back. And while the lady handed the passport back to me, she said, you're really lucky because someone else came after you and they said no. And in that process, what else did I do? I prayed. I prayed for the blessing of Buddha and Bodhisattva and all the Dharma guardians. If I'm meant to be here, please help me because I really want to.
You are lucky, and actually we are lucky, right, to have him here with us. I think your question is also can go to Dr. Lim and Venerable Wei-min as well.
Introduce yourself.
Me?
Well, I'll say something before Prof. Teng. So again, how do you deal with all these stresses in life, all right? And being a doctor is never really stress-free, especially when you're kind of like coming out and you're faced with patients who is struggling at the edge of death, all the time. And there's a lot of stresses, so people will say, oh, is it because that the doctor says I'm failing? How can they see my family die and not react to it? Maybe it's because your doctor has been working 100 hours a week, maybe he hasn't slept for 40 hours. But I can tell you, nobody can feel nothing, right, for a patient. Right? So again, along the way, stresses of everything, exams, getting into maybe a good college, a good school, a hospital, and all that. How do you deal with those life stresses? Stresses of a family, problems, who doesn't have problems, who doesn't have issues, right, in life. So I must say that the way that I deal with it is different along the different stage of my life, obviously. And again, I second Dr. Chan's suggestion that is, again, a lot of practice. As Buddhists, we like to face it. We face the problem, we know where it's coming from, we look at it and we practice. All right, it could be, depending on what your practice, whether you actually kind of mentally, kind of think about it. You do prayers, recitation, chanting, etc. It is a way for you to see that all the stresses are elements that is really not that important. Your personal inside being is always calm and happy, all right, and to focus on that. So to turn the light within, look at your own happy, calm, inert self, and say that, okay, we have a problem. How do we deal with it? All right. Inside here is not affected. All right. Is it success? Is it failure? It doesn't affect your own inner, ever bright, self. That's really clean in that sense. And say that, okay, we have a problem. We deal with it. I can't come to Singapore. So we deal with it. Maybe we will have extra 20 minutes of discussion by Hui-min. If Dr. Chan couldn't come. So we face the problem. We look at it and say that, okay, this is me and problem. We are two different things. I can remain calm. I can remain, just by myself, clean and ever, bright and happy. And this is a problem. This is the dust. This is something on the root. How do we solve it? Do I get somebody to repair the root? Do I put on a pair of shoes? Do I move that stone out of the way? And if we cannot do something with it, then we change ourselves. We have to focus on what we have inside. And that takes many years of really looking at it, really discovering this inner self. That's always, I think, always kind, always calm, always happy, always bright. Yeah. That's how I do it. Yes.
Well, thank you. So,
before I share my experience, I would like to ask Dr. Lim, because it's very important to build good habit or lifestyle to prevent cancer. I think your answer or your instruction will bring us many merit. Okay, so later.
Very practical.
So so I ask in front of my sharing. And about 3 months ago, one professor asked me to help her wife how to cope with the very serious cancer in the terminal stage, because his wife very upset on this situation, still young, and very good education family, and also in very good rich family. And her wife tried to suicide because she don't want to bring any troublesome care on her. But he very thoughtful about other people. If she suicide at home, and according to the Chinese thinking, that home will become 凶宅. How do you say 凶宅?
A haunted house.
Yes.
Okay.
Haunted.
Yeah. And also that area. And
Bad feng shui.
Yes, and the price of the building will.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yes, that's a very serious problem for her family and the neighborhood.
The whole chain reaction.
Yes. But he thought another way to suicide. Yes, outside the city. But she regret. Cannot drive. He cannot drive. And
Uber.
Yes. But that will bring another problem because she asked her husband to drive her to some place, countryside, nobody there, and ask her husband just leave. And he will use some method to suicide, but he thought it will bring legal issue on her husband, right? And also legal issue.
Suicide.
Right.
Yes.
Also some maybe some legal issue to driver of Uber. So therefore he, but for her it's very difficult to facing this terminal stage of cancer because it's very serious cancer. He cannot take care of herself. Even go to toilet, he lie down on the bed all the time. And I went to hospital to hearing his experience on this process, and he told me about.
You mean she?
She told me on this experience, and I asked her, "Can I record your experience, even including the suicide?"
Evernote?
Yes, by Evernote. Yes.
Advertisement. Sorry.
Yes. If we have time, maybe we can hear his saying from my record. And of course, there are two emotions. One is afraid. Afraid. And we have another attitude is to be greed for something. If anything we like, we will approach very close, because she have another choice is death. So he tried to approach the death. So we have two choices. One is afraid, and the other is approach. Right? One is if we like death, if we approach, then we will suicide. And the other is afraid, and try to do anything can prolong our life, even 1 minute. So I share my experience for life and death is in middle way, not too close, not to escape, is respect. Respect. Respect the life and death. If you rise the emotion, the respect emotion, you will not too close and not too away. Put it in the middle way. Then it will give you more clear vision or knowledge to think about life and death. So that is my experience on the respect. Therefore, they change their perception on the life and death. So they try to respect the life and the death. So that will change their quality of life, because they change the perception on the life and death. That is my sharing, humble sharing. Thank you.
So this middle way in between.
Right. That's the middle way.
Actually, like what you say, pay attention to here and now, not the past and future. Okay.
How can we prevent cancer?
All right.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And
A good habitual living style.
Oh yeah, exactly. Obviously, a happy and calm mind, goes a long way towards health. Obviously, because if you're always depressed, you're not going to practice healthy life habits. So cancer, I wouldn't say that all cancers are preventable. Okay, so there are certain situations that we cannot get out of. There are certain reasons for getting cancers. It may be inherited genetic, whereby you will definitely get cancer, and if it is your genes, as of now, at this age, we can't change genes, all right? So those are not preventable. And of course, if you just happen to be next to the nuclear power plant and it went bust, and you are exposed to it, and they're not going to be preventable. All right. So how do we do it, in this daily life? Of course, there are things that are carcinogenic. I have and has been proven to be carcinogenic. So, for example, smoking. For example, alcohol. There's certain food stuff that we know are, obviously carcinogenic. Barbecue, whereby it's actually burned and charred. These are polyaromatic, carbons. So stuff like this that we can avoid, we should try to avoid. Because in this day and age, it's a long-term habit, right? So smoking goes a long way before it actually causes problems. And then people will always come up with other excuses to say that, no, my grandfather lived to the 90 years old and never got cancer. Why should I get cancer? So I have good genes and stuff like that. So, and it takes a long while for us to prove that smoking is definitely related to cancer. All right. However, as much as the government tried to put all sort of warning with ugly pictures and all that, people still smoke. Yeah. And we don't mince words about it. Medical oncologists are very clear about it. In fact, someone in 2008 said that this is almost like murder, okay, because it really is associated with cancer. You see so many patients. All right. So stuff like that. Avoid carcinogenic elements. And the next thing I would like to say is that exercise has been proven to prevent cancer. So that means, what does it mean by exercise? You're not going to go out there and run a marathon or go for the Olympics or swim like 10 kilometers or something like that. No, all right. walking exercises. All right, so walking.
How many steps?
10,000 steps a day.
we just on average. Yeah, see, 10,000.
How many you did today?
Apple can tell you.
3,000.
3,000.
About 1 to 1.5 hours of just gentle, moderate exercises. That means walking. All right. So if you can spare 1 hour of your life, just focus on doing some exercises. It will help. In fact, it helps prevent cancer. It helps treat cancer should you have it. So that means a higher chance of cure, and also help prevent it from coming back. All right. If you are not able to get a cure, then you prolong survival. All right. So that's that. Now, of course, food stuff. There are many studies on food. Nobody can really kind of give you a definitive answer to say that this is for sure this or this is for sure that. We know that high level of alcohol plus red meat with low fiber content will increase your chance of getting colon cancer. But I can tell you that dietary studies are just extremely difficult to do. If you have 100 studies to say that something helps, you will have 50 that says no, it doesn't help. Right? That's simply because it's very difficult to tell somebody to do something forever. Even if you like steak, you're a steak person. I say eat 365 days, 3 meals of steak. Can you do that? No. Right? You're not going to do that. Right? So dietary studies are difficult. If you believe in it, then the advice is more veg, less meat, less alcohol. All right, so we're coming to that. Then, of course, we talk about preventive things like getting vaccines. We know that hepatitis B is a major issue in the Southeast Asian region, or in fact, Asia in particular. And we have very good data, in fact, coming out from Taiwan. With the start of vaccination, the number of hepatitis B-related hepatocellular carcinoma, so liver cancer, has decreased along with increase in vaccination. All right, so certain things that we can't advise to get. We, of course, certain type of cancers we advise for screening. For example, getting a colonoscope at 50 years old, or mammogram at maybe 40 years old. But it really depends on which area you are in, because it's a cost effectiveness issue. So some countries will say 50 years old, some say 2 yearly, some say 1 yearly, etc. So, but I feel that in general, to prevent cancer, exercise, eat regularly, rest well, have a good mindset. Simple, straightforward. And the best thing is that all these are free.
Well, I want to skip my response, but all right. I think time is a little bit short. Okay. We only have 30 minutes, and my experience is relatively minor and boring. If we have time, I'll show. But 30 minutes left, so can we give opportunity to questions? Oh, there's already written questions.
There's a saying, ignorance is a blessing. So for death or something like this sort of crisis, what's the difference for a person without education compared to a professor, or a person with no belief versus a very devoted Christian or Buddhist thing?
So your question is also
ignorance is a blessing. So what's the difference of person facing death for no education versus intellect, or a person with no belief versus a person with, say, very good or deep.
Right. So you'd like to direct your question to all of them?
All of them.
I'll do a quick one.
Sure.
Thank you very, very, very much for that question. Being able to face death has nothing to do with your qualification. Nothing. From my experience, is about whether you have done what you should have done. So you can be uneducated, you can be poor, you can be nobody in the society, but if you have done your duty, you're a mother, you love your child, you love your grandchildren. When it's your time, it's time to go. People who are educated, sometimes they have even more attachment. So it's about whether you have done what you should be doing. Back to my story about my visa. I slept that night before I catch the flight to Sydney. When I reflect on myself, how can I sleep? How can I sleep? Because I've done all I can. What else should I do? Sleep. So for people, of course, we would like them to have a little bit more understanding so that they are not stuck in the wheel of samsara. Because if you just do what you need to do, you move on, you have a good death, but you will come back again. Yeah, because the habit is there, the cycle is still there. We would like people to be liberated, but it's very important to not mistake liberation to level of intellectual development. Because sometimes someone can be so simple-minded, but they might be the first one who crossed the finish line, while the academics are still arguing, standing at the like where the line is.
Exactly.
I would agree. I think qualification really have nothing much to do with how you face death. In fact, if you are the more educated and if you go Google and you read all sorts of things, you'll have more fear, and in fact you'll die more, kind of in depression. The way I look at it. So it really have nothing to do, and we get that situation very often. In fact, when I came back, it was the big C. We can't tell the patient, especially the daughters would say, we can't tell mom or we can't tell dad, because C means death, right? And I don't want her to get depressed. So I would say, I'll quote a few cases whereby, it's very interesting. So again, mom didn't speak much English. Some of them speak maybe just a dialect, because Cantonese or Hokkien, and the daughter will come in and say, hey doc, first you will send the nurse in. Do not mention C, the word C. No cancer should be mentioned because she will know it's cancer. Do not mention. So it cannot, So then she comes in, she's very careful. She will speak just all English. There's nothing else. You cannot mention. And in English, she will say like tumor or mass or whatever, and you cannot mention cancer, right? So I have this daughter who we finished the discussion, right? And it's like, okay, we respect that. Yeah. So at the end of it, I say, okay, I need to examine your mom. When I pulled the curtain, the mom turned around and told me in Cantonese and said, hey, actually, I know I have cancer. But please do not let my daughter know I have cancer. Know that I know I have cancer. All right. Then the second case was also, I finished the whole entire discussion, and the mom asked me one question. And so in the end, I turned around to the mom and said, hey, let's do treatment. The mom asked me one question. Would I lose my hair? So what kind of treatment loses hair? Other than treatment for cancer, right? So I would think that, why would somebody who would think that their mom or their dad cannot stand the news of cancer when they have been through, some of them have been through World War I, World War II, they are pioneer generation, they built the city, from nothing, from swamp to this, metropolis that we have here, and they cannot handle it. They cannot handle life challenges. They cannot handle that, I have cancer and everyone has to be secretive and, we hide from them, we discuss in the kitchen, and that guy, we have cancer. But actually she knows she has cancer. Your body changes, she doesn't know. So the way I look at it is that is what kind of support you can give to mom, to dad for that matter. It's discussion. A discussion with the doctor and also the caregiver, the greater extended family, about what exactly we can achieve. Can we actually, take away whatever issues that they might have, be it pain, be it, diarrhea or other sort of suffering. All right. So my approach to it is that if the patient wants to know, I feel that we should let the patient know so we can work together. And of course, from my point of view, if you faced it, it will be easier for you to handle it. Yeah. And I've seen a lot of so-called not educated people who accept it. They say that, hey, I have a good life, my family is with me.
True.
That's it.
True.
Time for me to go.
I just want to get on to that for one more minute. Okay. That is why the promotion of death awareness is so important. Our generation before us, they've seen death. But the problem that we have now is we're living in a non-death generation. A lot of people can live into their 20s and 30s and haven't lost anyone significant. Sometimes they haven't even lost a pet. So their own internalized death anxiety, they project it onto their family members. Because I can't deal with it, so we can't talk about it. So you need to start from yourself. You need to start today. When you go back home, if your partner is with you today, great, you can talk about it. But when you go back home, use this as an excuse. We talk about death and dying today. So this is what I would like to do when things happen to me. And then you ask this very key question. In Chinese, is 你嘞? 你嘞? For those of you who do not understand Chinese, what about you? So you tell your own story, and then you say, what about you? And then if they say, "Chee, 大家嚟試, 大家嚟試," that means they don't want to talk about it. Then you leave it for a while. Next time when you see something on the television, you bring it up again, and then you go, "你嘞?" So after a few times, you will have that conversation. It's a very important conversation to have.
Great. Yeah, let's hear from Venerable Wei-jen.
I totally agree. The true expertise specialized talking about this issue. I heard 2 days ago from the Dr. Lin about the percentage of the cancer people in Singapore, 40.
Approaching, yes, 40.
Yeah,
in
40.
lifetime risk of
40%.
Cancer, yes.
And in Japan, 50%.
Oh, we better.
Yes, because Asian, the Asian population. Therefore, how to practice the death awareness? My experience is to think about today is your last day, and because we very fair every day, everybody 24 hours, right? No matter your education or your background, 24 hours. And it is very, it is possible. Today is our last day. And our last day may be very similar with today. And you to think about this feeling or idea, then you will try to accomplish anything you should to do, you need to do. Do not procrastinate. That's a tomorrow section. That is tomorrow topic. Then at night, still alive.
Yeah, and what a blessing.
Yeah,
Rejoice.
Yeah. And try to practice how to go into the coffin. For example, you change your clothes, and you can imagine this change to soi. How to say in soi?
I don't think there's a translation for that.
Okay.
The Chinese have this garment for the deaf.
Yeah, garment for the deaf. So don't bother other people. You can put on yourself from the garment. And lie on the bed. Try to imagine just lie into the coffin. And to put on the bed.
The blanket.
Blanket.
Yeah.
That's the lid of the coffin.
And bid farewell to today.
Okay, yes, and the farewell to everything. People, my computer, say hello, say goodbye. And hello in the morning, next morning. Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
In the morning.
And to say goodbye to everything. Every people and everything. And try to imagine the dying process. The dying process. First of all, you should relax, let the muscle and the bone to relax. Very similar to the dying processes. And gradually, and the circulation will slow down, your breath will slow down, and go into the sleep. So if you can face the dying process just like a sleeping process, naturally, it's very natural. So this process actually embodied in our daily life. So next day, awake again, new life, another new life. And not born in the baby state, right? Grow up state. if you a baby stage, you need other people to take care of you. You are grown up stage, you can help other. You can help other people. It's a very breathing thing. You can help other people. So that is my humble experience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. In case, and thank you for brought up this concept of awareness, of death awareness. In case we are too strong and leading a relatively easy life, difficult for us to imagine this life of disruption. There's a good piece of advice from Buddhist meditation. There's a meditation on death called Marana Anusati, so where you practice meditation and recollect, be mindful of the death. So in case you're interested, you can practice this special meditation. Well, we have only 30 seconds left. I have a question on hand, but it's actually quite similar. I think your question will still go to this. Your responses go to this question. The question asks, how can we keep a calm mind while waiting for health screening results? And how, if the result turn out negatively, how can we keep the positive mindset?
I think I will just keep it very short because we have run out of time.
Yes.
I would use the analogy that Dr. Chan has said just now, that I can't come to Singapore, I can't get my passport, I can't sleep. But what can I do in this time? If you can't do anything about it, go to sleep.
Okay.
So what is the point of worrying about screening results when you can't do anything about it? Because it takes time to come out, right? You have gone for the screening, you just wait for the results. So do your stuff. Yeah. Focus on the moment, do what you need to do, eat, sleep, drink, and wait for the results. That's what I would say, yes.
There is a physiological process in that too. Whenever you're triggered by fear, it's actually not going to stay that long. It's just a thought. But what we do is we make thought a reality. So mindfulness is about letting thought be thought. I have a thought of I'm afraid of the results. Is there anything else the thought can tell me? Oh yes, you told me that you're afraid of the result. Anything else? Nothing else. That's it. Thank you very much. Come to me again when you have something new. So this is how you deal with your thought. Because it is real. The fear is real. It is when you would actually have a bodily reaction, the clenching of your heart, the shallowing of your breath. It is a real thing. But it is only real as a thought. It is not the reality. You always have a choice. But it's not about you making the choice. It's about you cultivating your mind so that you're in a position to be able to make that choice. Otherwise, you can't, because you're too caught up with the disruptive process. Okay, thank you so much. I think we are facing another critical moment today, which is lunch. Right? Important moment. Right. So join me, give another big hand to the speakers, and thank you for the challenging questions and inspiring responses.